every day you're building on something that happened in a different teacher's class. So you need to be in constant communication with each other about what's going on in your classes. The neat thing about that was that the students couldn't remember in which class they learned what. It was all South Africa.
When the students walk off the stage and the next student walks on, it's a chance for me to shake their hand or give them a hug, and they feel this huge sense of accomplishment of not only having read, you know, this big thick book, but feeling like I'm one of the now hundreds of artists that has participated in this 3,000-year experiment with retelling this story. And they feel like I sort of met Homer on his own terms. He wasn't just this ancient Greek guy that can't speak to me, you know. He was an artist and I'm an artist, and we just happen to not be living at the same time.
So much of the time, students don't want to read Shakespeare. They're very reticent. They don't feel they can access the text. So rather than spring a project on them, what we decided to do was have a roundtable discussion with all the students, where the other English teacher and I came together with our classes, sat the students on the floor in a circle, and said to them, okay, what do you think of when you think of reading Shakespeare? And we just got all of their fears and apprehensions out, and then we said, okay, well, what can we do to support you in accessing this text? And that just led to a very meaningful dialogue. The students knew that we cared. We talked about our own experiences with learning about Shakespeare and trying to understand the text, and then we talked about some strategies for how to attack it.
A couple of the students that were working on that project weren't necessarily the most motivated learners, but the thing that was really amazing is once they were captivated into the actual learning and the process, they were some of the more committed people to work on the project. And so it was a real pleasure to see that, and to see the fact that the troubleshooting and the amount of time that they had put into the project, at the end for the exhibition, they were able to defend and talk about all these different concepts. And through the trial and error and through the different iterations that were happening on that project, they were able to talk very well on it, which was an incredible thing to see. And so it was nice to see that commitment and work that they did.
It always comes down to the research. You know, the research has to be good. Hey, it has to be sound, it has to be deep. If it isn't, then regardless of what you're doing, no matter how fancy you get with a multimedia presentation, it's not going to be powerful. So you have to keep focused on that research.
I think it takes a certain amount of ambition and courage, and I don't mean that in a negative way. And I feel as we went through the process, there were teachers and students who were at different phases of, oh yes, and oh, I'm a little weary about this, and a lot of it just had to do with, and I guess I believe this about any large-scale exhibition where you're really working on something large, is knowing and believing that it is possible, and in some ways living that belief and saying, we can do this, and I can expect this of my students, and I can expect this of myself, and I'm not going to lower my standards, and I'm not going to lower the bar of what I think is possible for students to be able to do in school. And I think living that belief is what makes all the difference with planning and working on this kind of project, and having the courage to follow it through in some ways.